I want to play a soundbite for you. This is from Representative Donnelly out of Virginia, a Democrat, who said we have to care about Ukraine. It is really, really, really important. Wait till you hear why.
Some say, well, we have to deal with our border first. The Ukrainian-Russian border is our border. It's the border between depraved autocracy and freedom-loving people seeking our democratic way of life.
It's our border. You get it? It's our border. That's why we have to worry about it. It's our border, ladies and gentlemen. You know, there's a lot wrong with that statement. I can understand, okay, maybe you want to have some say in that part of the world. Maybe you're using it as a proxy war to tie up Putin, to actually keep him really, really busy so that he doesn't join forces with China, et cetera. Or maybe you're just actually really not good at your job and you've made a whole bunch of blunders that have gotten us into the situation we're in. I mean, that's my argument, that this is just diplomacy gone wrong, and it's partly because we get Tony Blinken, who doesn't really know what he's doing there, running the show, along with Joe Biden. It's, you know, something to think about, considering how everything has escalated. You know, whether we were trying to get out of Afghanistan, which I don't think anybody would really disagree with. Nobody wants to be over there, but it's how you do it, right? And who you leave behind, and whether you leave anybody behind. And one of the concerns is we got out, and we got out too fast, and we left a bunch of weaponry that could then get into the hands of the bad guys behind. So that was one mistake. And then, you know, this Ukraine-Russia situation, if you understand it from the other side, you really should understand that it's got to be a balancing act from a diplomacy standpoint. We allegedly have had operations. I don't have to reportedly look. It was in the New York Times. Not that you can believe everything there, but they reported like some 23 pages in a PDF doc on how we've been there with our CIA op going on since 2014, since the Maidan Revolution. Well, if that's the case, and we've been there for so long, then Trump knew about it, and this somehow was contained. So why did it bubble up now? Apparently part of the drill was that the CIA was told never allow this to escalate. Well, somebody allowed it to escalate. So you got to ask yourself about that. And now we're in a situation where we're going to pay all this money out. And the American people, they don't really want it. It gets back to, I keep asking, why don't we use our financial power? We have a lot of financial power. And like for whatever reason, we don't use it. We prefer to actually, I mean, it's kind of unthinkable, and it's really horrific to think that you're going to sacrifice lives before you would sacrifice dollars. But that's indeed what goes on. And so instead of being smart and thinking about how we sanction appropriately Russia or anyone who's doing business with them, thank you very much, we do other things. Well, it turns out today, finally, the administration admitted that it's drafting financial sanctions against Russian banks that are aiding Russia in this effort in Ukraine. I'm just looking at this going, why the heck didn't we do this earlier? I mean, why do we have to wait till now? This kind of seems like an obvious step, right? If there are banks in China that are helping to bankroll the Russians so that they can buy weaponry and fight in Ukraine, like, why didn't you guys do this ages ago? I mean, this is the obvious low-hanging fruit stuff. This is what somebody who's been in business, someone who understands finance, someone who understands the economy, someone who understands how to use the power that they have would have done. And yet people are, oh my gosh, he throws around, I'm talking about Donald Trump, the use of sanctions all the time. How could he do that? Why does he do that? Why? Because that's actually a really good weapon, ladies and gentlemen, and it doesn't require people dying in the process. So my view on this, and you've heard this many times before, and it's one of the reasons I liked Trump's foreign policy, was that you use everything in your economic power before you result in or get to the point where you're seeing the results being fights on the ground. We need to be smarter about this. We need to use sanctioning to the best of our ability to actually throw our weight around. Instead of just saying this, that, or the other and being kind of half-assed about it all, we need to actually say what we mean and put our money quite literally where our mouth is. So now finally, Blinken's going to go over there next week, and he's going to wave around his draft of his possible financial sanctions against these banks, and maybe China will get the message, although I doubt it. And they're going to continue to tinker with us and push us to be more divided by encouraging, however they can, what you're seeing on college campuses all across the country. So remember that. Remember just who's behind it. I mean, granted, as I said, you got a gullible group there. You've got academia, which has been infiltrated, frankly, by this globalist wokeism that, in my view, it originates out of places that have an ulterior motive. I mean, just look at where the money is that's coming in to fund the Middle Eastern studies professors, the Chinese professors, et cetera. And that tells you a lot, right? Just follow the money and you're going to learn a whole lot. Speaking of following the money, I want to take a look at the yield on the 10-year bond. You know, if you haven't signed up for my financial newsletter, you really need to. You need to, because it's all about planning for your future. It's all about understanding what companies, what stocks specifically are going to be beneficial for you in the long run, so that one day, you know, hopefully you're not working forever, you can live off of some of that retirement income coming to you from a really strong, good, solid portfolio of good companies with, depending on what you are looking for, because we have different model portfolios at 76research.com, but different portfolios there. Drew, maybe you can put that graphic up. Unless I have it, I can actually type it in here. Okay, so 76research.com. Go there and check it out. You can look at the model portfolios. And there's a lot of information about how to invest. I created this with my friend Rob Horton, who has worked for decades on Wall Street and managed so much money, like billions of dollars. And he has really always believed, I mean, so many of these companies, I think he has them all himself as well, because these are companies that really are just stalwarts in the industry. And so there's some things you should read there. There's model portfolios, one for growth, it's the American Resilience portfolio, one for dividend, and one for generating income. And so I encourage you to go there. You can sign up for free for the news, well, for some of the stuff. There's a lesser price newsletter as well as the model portfolios, which, you know, will not break the bank. Typically this kind of research cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And I just felt strongly that we had an opportunity to reach a larger market and really be able to help people in this investing process. So go check it out, 76research.com. That is right? Remember, 76research.com. It's my new company that I started with Rob Horton, and it's just us. So we don't have any of the biases or the conflicts that you would see on Wall Street and elsewhere. And so that's, again, I think very unique, and one of the reasons why you might want to take a look. But this is wild. We look here at the 10-year, and the 10-year has been climbing pretty steadily. Gold has been doing pretty well. Gold's down a touch today, but still at an enormous valuation at $23.35. Rob has some very specific views. We love gold. I mean, I've been a big believer in it for so long. But again, another reason to sign up for 76 Report, because you can get all of that valuable information on gold. I'm looking at the yield on the 10-year, 4.6% right now. I think when we were looking at it earlier, Drew, what was it, 4.59? Okay, so now it just tipped over into 4.6, down a teeny tiny touch today. But when you look at that graph and you see over the last month how much it has climbed, one of the reasons for that, I think, is just the concern that America doesn't have an easy way out of the inflation that we're now in. I mean, you look at the price of eggs, for example, over the last 3 years. You look at the price of gas. You look at the increase in the housing costs for both rents and mortgages, and they are massive. They are significant, and wages are not keeping up enough with that. So Joe Biden has failed us from an economic standpoint, but it's not just Biden, right? Like, there's blame to go around, because Chuck Schumer was there spending like a drunken sailor so much money that we just didn't have. And they were using March 2020 as their excuse to just print and print and print and print. And the printing got ratcheted up when Biden came into office. You had Jerome Powell running the Federal Reserve, and he still doesn't quite get it, that he has created a massive inflation problem. This whole transitory stuff, totally nonsense. And so if you're in another country elsewhere, you're looking at this and saying, well, I don't really want to be indebted to the United States anyway, right? They're worried that the U.S. can throw its weight around from a military perspective and from a financial perspective, right? That's about what we're going to do with China because of the sanctions. And so they're trying to find some other solution. Now, I really wouldn't want to be invested anywhere else, but it's perhaps one of the reasons why you see gold moving higher at that level, 2335, just having touched 2400, above 2400 just the other day. And so this is really unprecedented. We've never seen these kind of gold prices before, but they may be understandable when you think about the obstacles that the U.S. faces in the future. And so you have central banks all over the world saying, okay, well, I better buy gold because like that's the one thing I can really count on. And you've been able to count on it for thousands and thousands of years. Again, we get into this at 76. Go check out 76research.com. Sign up there. I encourage you to do this because there's a lot of information that you can get. A lot of it's free that will help explain some of these phenomenons that are happening. But look, if the U.S. is stuck having to pay for all these wars all over the world that we're engaging in and really spreading our resources pretty thin and then continuing to print, then your dollar is going to continue to lose value. And that's where we are right now. And so I'd like to see somebody in charge that understands this. Politicians typically only care about getting elected, right? So they don't actually look out for the policies that are going to make a difference in your life, in my life. They are out to only get themselves elected. So they will choose the path of least resistance. They will always choose to spend, print and spend. That's what they do, and they're going to keep doing it until somebody says, all right, enough. And you would think that the Federal Reserve would have enough intelligence to do the right thing, that they'd have enough backbone, and yet they never do. They never do. And I think there's some political bias there. I'm going to be totally frank. I don't think Jerome Powell, even though he was appointed by Donald Trump, I don't think that he liked Trump very much, and he's more embedded with his old boss, Janet Yellen, who is now the Treasury Secretary of the United States. And somehow she sees this as, well, it'll get under control. I don't know how it's going to get under control at this point. I really don't. It's actually quite unnerving. So a bigger reason for you to really think hard about how you're investing for the future, go to 76 Research, check that out, sign up for the model portfolios because that will be sort of a really good guidepost for you.